Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You are listening to a very special edition of our show today. It's part of the Building Humans podcast series.
It's great to be here.
And I want to start with a visualization. I want you to picture a construction site.
Okay.
You know the vibe. You've got scaffolding everywhere. You've got blueprints rolled out on these dusty tables, heavy machinery.
A lot of noise.
So much noise. People in hard hats shouting over the sound of drills and hammers. It's chaotic, it's loud, and, the stakes are incredibly high.
Incredibly high. Because if that foundation is cracked, even by a millimeter,
The whole thing's a wash.
the building doesn't stand. It's a high-pressure environment. Precision is, well, it's everything.
Exactly. Now, take that image, that intensity, that need for absolute precision, that need for a plan, and apply it to your living room.
Oh.
Apply it to your kitchen table on a Tuesday morning. Because the
Yeah.
premise of this entire series, and especially the material we are diving into today, is that the most complex, the most high-stakes construction project on Earth isn't a skyscraper.
It isn't a bridge, no.
It's a human being. And the job site is your home.
And the terrifying part of that, most of the project managers, the parents, have never even seen the blueprints.
They're flying blind.
They're building in the dark.
That is exactly where we are going today. We are breaking down episode 16 of the Building Humans journey. And we have, a fascinating stack of materials here, a real treasure trove of insight.
It really is.
And it's all brought to us by the Al-Mahaba Foundation. That's the Love for All and Service to All Foundation in collaboration with the Dar el-Khalima Publishing House.
A wonderful partnership.
And the concept we are wrestling with today is something called shallow understanding, or in the original text, dalat al-fam.
It's a concept that sounds, a bit academic at first glance, maybe a little philosophical.
Right, bit abstract.
But when you actually peel it back, it is. It's emotional dynamite. It really challenges the very core of how we relate to children.
It does.
It questions the things we do automatically, every single day, without a second thought.
I have to admit, reading through the prep notes and the source text for this one, I felt a little called out. It's not a comfortable topic. It's one of those topics that forces you to look in the mirror and ask, have I been doing this wrong the whole time?
Well, growth is rarely comfortable.
True.
If you're comfortable, you are probably stagnating. The goal of these materials isn't to make anyone feel guilty or bad. It's to give you sight.
Sight.
It's to hand you a flashlight in a dark room.
Sight is the perfect word, because the central accusation, and I'm going to call it an accusation because it really feels like one of the source material, is that most of us, despite our best intentions,
Our very best intention.
we are walking around completely blind.
Blind to the reality of the child.
Yeah.
And that blindness, well, it's dangerous.
So let's start with the hook. The source material opens with this really painful truth. It says that parents, we operate under this massive
And
illusion.
a huge one.
We think we know our children. And why do we think we know them? Well, the logic seems simple enough. I own the house they live in. I bought the shirt on their back.
I cook the pasta they're eating.
Right. I drive them to school. Therefore, I know them.
It's what we could call the provider's fallacy.
The provider's fallacy, I like that.
We assume that because we are the source of their physical care, the provision, the safety, the food, the shelter, that we automatically possess psychological insight.
Right. It's like a package deal.
We think, I sustain you, therefore I know you. It's a very linear, very adult way of thinking.
I made you. So, I get you.
Precisely. But the materials from Dar el-Khalima, and they're drawing heavily on Montessori philosophy here, they just flip the table on that entire idea.
Completely.
They suggest that you can be the most loving, the most attentive provider in the world. You can buy the organic kale, the best sneakers, the safest car seat,
Checking all the boxes.
all of them, and still be totally spiritually blind to who that child actually is.
That distinction between loving and seeing is really heavy. I think most listeners would immediately say, of course I see my child. I look at them every day. I watch them sleep. I watch them play.
And you do. You look at them.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you look into them?
Ah.
That's the real question. The source material argues that there's a chasm, a massive gap between the adult's perception of the child
That we think is happening.
and the child's actual internal reality. And that gap, that's where the trouble starts. That's where the fighting happens. That is where the yelling, the timeouts, the tears, and all the frustration live.
So if we're just looking at the surface, we are completely missing the engine underneath.
Exactly. Imagine a mechanic who spends all day polishing the hood of a car,
Okay.
but has absolutely no idea how the combustion engine works. The car looks great, shiny, perfect, but it won't run.
Because the important work is happening inside.
We are often polishing the child, making sure they look good, behave well, eat the right things, but we don't understand the engine of their development.
So our mission for this deep dive is to act as, I guess, bridge builders. We want to map out this gap, understand why it exists, and then hopefully give the listener the tools to cross it.
We want to move from that shallow understanding to something deeper.
To something real.
We're going to try to cure the blindness. And to do that, we have to start with the equipment we're all currently wearing.
Let's get technical. The source material introduces a metaphor that I think is just brilliant. It's called the adult glasses.
This is the root cause. This is the source of the blindness. The provocation here is that from the moment we mature into adults, we put on a pair of lenses that completely distort how we see the world.
And we don't even know they're there.
That's what makes them so dangerous. We don't realize we're wearing them. It's like wearing tinted sunglasses for so long, you forget the world isn't actually that color.
So paint the picture for me. I'm wearing these adult glasses. I've got my coffee. I've got my car keys. How does the world look? How does my day-to-day life actually change through these lenses?
When you wear adult glasses, your brain is tuned to one specific frequency. The result,
The result?
the adult world it's teleological. It is driven by ends, by goals, by destinations. We are obsessed with the finish line.
Okay, so if I'm walking to the car, I'm not just walking. I'm walking to get to work.
Right. The walking itself is just a necessary evil to get you from point A to point B.
And if I'm washing the dishes, I'm not enjoying the warm water or the bubbles. I'm washing them to get them clean.
Exactly. The action is just a means to an end. It is a tax we pay to get to the result.
Tax, yeah.
If you could just snap your fingers and have the dishes be clean without the washing part, you would. Every single time.
At heartbeat.
Because the washing isn't the point. The clean plate is the point. We are efficiency machines. We want the straightest, fastest line between A and B.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, that's how we survive in the modern world. If I spent 3 hours admiring the bubbles while I was washing dishes, I'd get fired and the house would be a complete mess.
Of course.
We have to be efficient to manage our lives.
Correct. It is absolutely necessary for adult survival. We have bills to pay, schedules to keep, deadlines to meet. But here is the problem, and it is a massive one.
Okay.
The child is not wearing those glasses.
Ah.
The child is operating on a completely different frequency. They are tuned to the process.
Process versus result. This is the clash of civilizations right here in the living room.
It is. It truly is. To the child, the destination is almost irrelevant. The doing is the destination.
The doing is the destination.
They don't walk to get somewhere. They walk to perfect the art of walking. They don't wash their hands to get germs off. They wash their hands to feel the sensation of water and soap, to understand how their fingers move and interact.
This feels like a philosophical difference, but in the real world, this is a collision course.
It's a head-on collision.
If I am rushing to get a result and they are lingering, just swimming in the process, we are going to crash.
It is a violent collision almost every time. And the source material gives us the classic perfect example of this, the clumsy child.
Oh, the spilled water.
The spilled water.
Let's break this down frame by frame, because I think every parent, every grandparent, every teacher listening right now has lived this exact moment 1,000 times.
Picture it. A 3-year-old is carrying a glass of water across the kitchen.
Okay.
Maybe it's a heavy glass, it's filled a little too high. They're walking so slowly, their face is just a mask of pure concentration.
We're locked in.
And then, suddenly, crash.
Yeah.
Water everywhere. Maybe the glass breaks. The floor is soaked. Now, host, put on your adult glasses. Tell me what just happened.
Okay, adult glasses are on. I see a disaster. I see a wet floor that I now have to stop what I'm doing and clean up. I see a wasted drink. I see danger broken glass that needs to be swept up immediately. And I see a child who was careless. My brain immediately slaps a label on them. Clumsy, naughty. Why weren't you watching where you were going?
And your blood pressure goes up. You feel that spike of inconvenience in your chest.
Immediately, because it's a step backward in my day. I wanted a dry floor. Now I have a wet one. The result was a complete failure.
That is a perfect description of the shallow understanding. You are judging the event by how it impacts you and your timeline and your goals.
It's an annoyance.
It's an annoyance. But now, let's take the glasses off. Let's try to switch to deep vision. Rewind the tape. What was the child actually doing before the spill?
Well, they were carrying the water.
But why? It's unlikely they were thirsty. They weren't trying to hydrate efficiently. If they were that thirsty, they probably would have leaned over the table and drank it right there.
That's a good point. So if they're not thirsty, then what on earth are they doing walking across a room with a full glass?
They are working.
Yeah. Working.
They are a scientist in a laboratory. That's the best way to think about it.
Fair.
They are balancing a heavy object against the constant pull of gravity. They are watching the liquid slosh back and forth, learning about fluid dynamics in real time.
Right.
They are adjusting their gait, engaging their core muscles, testing their proprioception. That's the brain's sense of knowing where their body is in space.
So it's a workout, it's a physics lesson, it's a motor skills exam, all rolled into one.
It is the brain building itself. The source material is very, very specific about this phrasing, the brain building itself. Every single step that child took was a neuron connecting to another neuron. They were literally building the pathways in their brain that will eventually allow them to be a surgeon or a dancer or just a graceful adult who doesn't spill coffee on themselves.
So when the water spills, that isn't a moral feeling. It's not clumsiness.
It is simply data.
Data. That is a very cold way to look at a soaking wet floor.
It might seem cold, but it's the accurate way. In a science lab, if an experiment fails, if a beaker explodes, the scientist doesn't say, I am a bad person, I am naughty.
No, of course not.
They say, okay, that variable didn't work. Let me adjust my approach and try again. The child is doing the exact same thing. But we treat their failed experiments like a crime.
We scold the scientist.
We yell at the scientist for the failed experiment. We say, you are naughty, when the reality is, you are learning. We are so completely obsessed with the dry floor, the result, that we miss the developmental miracle, the process that's happening right in front of our eyes.
It really does reframe the entire feeling of annoyance. If I saw a neurosurgeon practicing a delicate move and they dropped a tool, I wouldn't run in yelling, "You're so clumsy."
Of course not.
I would respect the incredible difficulty of the task they were attempting.
Precisely. But because the neurosurgeon is 3 feet tall and wearing dinosaur pajamas, we lose that respect.
Yeah.
We judge the error rather than respecting the effort. And this happens constantly. It's not just spilled water. It's how they try to eat with a fork. It's how they try to put on their own coat. It's how they climb stairs 1 foot at a time.
And we were always rushing them. Come on, let's go. We're going to be late. We are constantly pulling them toward our result, and they are digging their heels into their process.
And because we are bigger and hold all the power, our timeline wins. We drag them along. And in doing so, we often sever that neural connection they were in the middle of building. We interrupt the construction.
That is a very tough pill to swallow. The idea that we are prioritizing our own convenience over their literal brain construction.
We're putting clean floors above brain development.
Wow.
We are. And we justify it by telling ourselves we are teaching them to be careful. But really, we are just imposing our adult reality onto their child reality.
I want to pivot from that because it's a perfect lead-in to another scenario the source material brings up. If the spilled water is a daily annoyance, this next one is public enemy number 1.
The tantrum.
The public meltdown. The ultimate test of a parent's sanity.
The ultimate test of their patience, for sure.
The source paints the picture so vividly. You're in a store, a grocery store, let's say. You've got the fluorescent lights, strangers everywhere, the low hum of the freezers.
It's a sensory nightmare for a little person.
And suddenly, your child is on the floor, screaming, kicking their legs. People are staring. You feel that heat rising in your neck, the embarrassment.
This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the ultimate battleground between shallow and deep understanding.
Okay, so let's do the shallow diagnostic first. What are we seeing through those adult glasses in that moment of crisis?
The shallow understanding sees bad behavior. Simple as that. It sees a brat. It hears noise that is socially unacceptable and deeply embarrassing.
It's all about the social pressure.
Exactly. The parent's internal monologue is almost always self-centered. Why are you doing this to me? You are embarrassing me in front of all these people. Stop it. Right now.
It feels like a personal attack. It really does. Like the child has consciously decided, you know what? I am going to ruin my Mother's Day right now. I am going to make a giant scene just to be difficult.
We attribute malice to the child. We assume intent. And so the focus becomes silencing the symptom. The screaming is the problem, so the goal is to stop the screaming.
Whatever it takes.
We try bribing. If you stop, I'll give you candy. We try threatening. That's it. We are leaving right now. Dragging them out of the store or just shoving a phone in their face. Anything to restore the peace.
But the expert perspective, the deep understanding we're aiming for, says we are totally fundamentally misreading the situation. We're treating a symptom and completely ignoring the disease.
Deep understanding redefines the tantrum entirely. It is not an attack. It is not malice. It is a cry for help.
Oh, that is so hard to accept when they are literally kicking you in the shins. It feels like a war, not a cry for help.
And it feels like a war because it is desperate. The energy is desperate. But we have to ask the next question. Why is the child desperate? What drove them to this point of no return?
Okay.
The source material introduces a critical scientific concept here that we absolutely need to unpack. And that's the idea of sensitive periods.
We've touched on this in previous episodes of Building Humans, but for any new listener, let's do a quick refresher. What exactly is a sensitive period?
A sensitive period is a specific, limited window of time in a child's development where they have an intense, overpowering biological compulsion to acquire a specific skill or understanding.
So it's not a hobby. It's not like, oh, I'd like to learn about this today.
No,
Oh.
it is as powerful as hunger. It is as irresistible as the drive to sleep. It's like a spotlight turns on in their brain and a voice says, you must focus on this right now, to the exclusion of all else.
Okay.
And one of the most intense and often misunderstood sensitive periods for toddlers is the need for order.
Order. No, you don't mean they suddenly want to organize a filing cabinet or alphabetize their spices.
No, not at all. Order, in the developmental sense, means orientation. It means knowing where things belong in the world, knowing the routine, knowing what comes next.
It's about predictability.
Exactly. Think about it. The world is a giant, chaotic, sometimes terrifying place to a new human. They just arrived here. They don't know the rules. Order is their map. It's how they feel safe and grounded.
So if that powerful biological need for order is violated, if the map gets ripped up,
It feels like the world is collapsing. It creates genuine psychological panic. It's not an exaggeration. Imagine you're visiting an alien planet. You don't speak the language. The gravity feels wrong. But you have a map. You know that if you turn left at the purple rock, you'll find water.
okay, the map is my lifeline.
Suddenly, someone snatches the map out of your hand and puts a blindfold on you. How do you feel?
I panic, I scream, I flail.
Exactly.
Mm.
Now let's go back to the grocery store. Why is the child screaming on the floor? Maybe you took a different aisle than you usually do. Maybe you put the apples in the cart, but they are always the one who puts the apples in the cart.
Or maybe you didn't let them push the little kid-sized cart the way they always do.
Exactly. You broke the ritual. You violated the order. To you, wearing your adult glasses, it's just apples. Who cares who puts the apples in the cart? But to them, the fundamental structure of their reality just dissolved. They are disoriented and terrified.
And because they don't have the vocabulary to say, Mother, you have disrupted my cognitive orientation and I now feel psychically unmoored, they scream.
They don't have the prefrontal cortex to regulate that massive wave of emotion. They are completely overwhelmed. And then, and this is the real tragedy of it, what does the parent do?
Well, the parent with the shallow understanding,
The parent, operating with shallow understanding, yells at them for being bad.
which essentially pours gasoline on the fire.
It compounds the trauma. The child is already suffering because their internal biological need was interrupted. They're already in a state of panic. And now their anchor, their source of safety, the parent is attacking them for suffering.
Wow. When you put it that way, it's absolutely heartbreaking. We are literally punishing them for being in distress.
We're kicking them while they're down.
Yeah.
And that is why the source calls for this fundamental shift in the parent's role in these moments. We have to stop being the judge.
The judge who bangs the gavel, guilty of making a scene, sentence, time out in the car.
Yes, retire the judge, take off the black robe, and start being the detective.
The detective. I love that shift in metaphor. What does the detective do in the cereal aisle when the meltdown starts?
The detective ignores the stares of the other shoppers. Let them stare. They don't matter.
Just tune them out.
The detective tunes out the surface noise. The screaming's just a clue, it's not the crime. The detective gets down on the child's level, physically gets down, and asks, what is the motive here? What is the root cause? What just happened 30 seconds ago that triggered this explosion?
You're looking for the clue. You become a forensic investigator of the last 5 minutes. Did we skip a step? Is it too loud in here? Is he overtired? Did I interrupt his work?
Exactly. If you act as a detective, you might have that light bulb moment where you realize, he wanted to hold the cereal box. That is his process. I took it from him to speed things up, and in doing so, I broke his sense of order.
And just having that realization changes your energy, doesn't it?
Completely.
You go from angry and embarrassed to compassionate and curious. You realize, oh, I caused this. This isn't malice. It's a misunderstanding, a communication breakdown.
It changes everything. You stop fighting against the child and you start solving the problem with the child. You might say something like, I see you are so upset because you wanted to hold the box. I'm sorry I took it so fast. Let's try again.
And that simple act validates the child's reality. It cures the blindness. It turns what felt like a war into a negotiation.
It turns conflict into connection. And that, at the end of the day, is the entire goal of deep understanding.
This leads us perfectly into the next trap. You mentioned, I took the box to speed things up, or, I did it for him. We so often think that doing things for our kids is the ultimate sign of love. We rush in to help.
It's our primary instinct.
But the source material calls this the paradox of help.
This is one of the most insidious forms of shallow understanding because it looks like kindness. It feels like kindness. It gets praised as kindness by others.
Right. Oh, what a helpful parent.
But the expert analysis from the Almahaga Foundation tells us is often the help that harms.
The help that harms. That is a strong phrase. It sounds so counterintuitive. How can helping a child ever be harmful? Isn't our job to make their lives easier?
Let's go back to that internal monologue. The shallow mindset says, my child is struggling to put on their shoes. It's taking forever. They're getting frustrated. They're fumbling with the Velcro.
The grunts of frustration are starting.
I love them, so I must rescue them from this struggle. I must do it for them to make them happy.
And also, let's be brutally honest, to get out the door.
Yes.
There is always a hidden agenda of speed. We are always late for something. The tyranny of the schedule.
Always. The adult glasses are laser focused on the result. Shoes on.
Yeah.
But now let's switch. Let's look at the deep mindset. What is actually happening, neurologically and psychologically, when the child struggles with the shoe?
Well, based on everything we've learned, they are deep in the process. They are building fine motor coordination. They are problem solving. Does this one go on this foot?
They are in the middle of a vital lesson. And this is key. Struggle is not the enemy of learning. Struggle is the mechanism of learning.
The mechanism.
You cannot build muscle without resistance. You can't lift a feather and expect to get stronger. You cannot build a brain without a problem to solve.
So when you swoop in and you just tie the shoe for them, what message are you actually sending?
You are sending two devastatingly clear messages, even if you don't say a word. The first message is, you can't do this. You are incompetent.
Ouch.
And the second message is, the result of having your shoe on matters more than your effort to learn. You are robbing them of the victory. You are stealing that incredible dopamine hit of self-accomplishment, the feeling of, I just die myself.
The source says something extremely provocative here. It says that what adults consider kindness in these moments is often actually their own impatience in disguise.
Ouch. That one hits home, doesn't it?
It really, really does. Impatience in disguise.
Right.
We tell ourselves this story that we are rescuing them from their frustration, but really, we just can't stand the waiting. We can't tolerate the messiness of their struggle.
It makes us anxious to watch them fail. We have a low tolerance for their learning curve. We are prioritizing our rhythm over their growth. A child's rhythm is naturally slow. It involves incredible amounts of repetition. It involves failure. It involves trying the wrong foot 3 times in a row.
While you're standing by the door with your keys in your hand, just vibrating with impatience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Adult rhythm is fast, linear, and direct. When we impose our rhythm on them by helping, we are essentially colonizing their experience. We are taking it over and making it ours.
So, deep understanding in that moment. What does that look like? If I see my kids struggling with a zipper and they're getting really frustrated, maybe crying a little bit, and I want to be a deep vision parent,
Yeah.
what do I do? Do I just stand there and watch them suffer?
You wait, you observe, you become a spotter.
Like in the gym?
Exactly like in the gym. If you're spotting someone on the bench press, you don't lift the bar for them on the first rep. If you do, they don't get any stronger.
Right. That defeats the whole purpose.
You stand there, hands ready, paying close attention. You're ready to intervene only if they are about to get truly crushed by the weight. But you let them push, you let them shake, you let them struggle, because the struggle is where the growth happens.
To the child, life is the gym.
Putting on a coat is a heavy lift. Pouring their own milk is a heavy lift. Let them lift it. Your internal monologue should be, the child is struggling because they are building themselves. I must honor that sacred work by not interrupting it.
This requires so much self-control from the parent. It is so much easier, so much faster to just do it for them.
It is easier for you. But we are in the business of building humans, not building easy mornings for parents.
Right. We have to decide what the ultimate goal is. Is the goal a shoe on a foot, or is the goal a capable, resilient child?
If the goal is just a shoe on a foot, then yes, do it yourself. But if the goal is a human being who feels capable, independent, and has grit, you have to sit on your hands. You have to zip your lip and wait.
It reminds me of that classic story about the person watching a butterfly coming out of the cocoon. And they feel bad for it. It's struggling so much, so they take a little pair of scissors and they snip the cocoon to help it out.
And the butterfly dies.
It dies because it needed that struggle to pump the fluid from its body into its wings. Without the struggle, the wings never develop.
That is the perfect analogy. The help that harms is cutting the cocoon. You think you are being kind, but you are actually disabling the creature you're trying to help.
I want to connect all of this to the core value of the Almahaba Foundation. Their motto, which we love, is love for all and service to everyone.
A beautiful mission.
But it raises a question. Usually when we think of service, we think of action. We think of serving food, cleaning up, fixing problems. It's a verb of doing. But based on what we've just discussed, service to a child seems to be the opposite of doing.
That is the beautiful paradox at the heart of this. In this context, the expert defines service not as doing, but as observation.
Service is observation. That sounds so passive. Talk to me about that. How is just watching someone a form of service?
Because true service requires knowing what the other person actually needs, not what you think they need.
Right.
If you serve a huge meal to someone who is already full, you aren't serving them. You are burdening them. If you tie the shoes of a child who has an intense internal drive to master tying shoes, you are serving them. You are hindering them. You are an obstacle to their development.
So observation is the research phase of service. You have to gather the data before you can act correctly.
It is the absolute foundation. You cannot serve what you do not see. Service, in this deep sense, is about seeing the invisible needs of the spirit.
The inviolable needs of the spirit.
You have to look past the surface behavior, the spilled water, the screaming in the store, the slowness with the zipper, and you have to ask yourself the key question.
And what is that key question?
What is my child trying to build right now?
What is my child trying to build right now? I love that. It immediately forces you to stop looking at the inconvenience to you and start looking at the construction project happening in them.
Exactly. If you observe and you realize they are building balance, you serve them by stepping back and letting them walk along the low curb, even if it makes you a little nervous. If you realize they're building a sense of order, you serve them by respecting their routine, even if it's repetitive and boring for you. If you realize they're building independence, you serve them by patiently waiting while they zip their own jacket for 10 minutes.
It's a passive-active state. You are physically passive, you aren't interfering, but you are mentally highly active, you are studying them, you're analyzing the data.
Yes. The source gives us one final metaphor for this whole dynamic. It urges the listener not to be the dictator.
The dictator who says, feel this way, act this way, do it now because I said so.
Precisely. The dictator forces the child to the adult mold. They rule by decree. I say so, therefore it is. There is no curiosity, only commands.
So what is the alternative to the dictator?
Be the interpreter.
The interpreter, I like that.
Think about what a good interpreter actually does. They don't just swap words. They bridge two different worlds, two different cultures.
Okay.
The child cannot always articulate their needs. They can't say, excuse me, I am in a sensitive period for language acquisition, so I must babble for the next hour. They just babble. The child cannot say, I am developing my fine motor skills and the pincer grasped. They just meticulously pick up every tiny crumb on the table.
They're speaking a different language, the language of development.
And the interpreter's job is to translate these mysterious behaviors into understandable needs. He is playing with crumbs not to be messy, but because his fingers need to practice that pincer grasp. How can I serve that need? I will give him a puzzle that uses that same movement.
That is so profound. It completely shifts the role of a parent from a management position to a translation position. You're not the boss. You're the diplomat. You're trying to decode a message from a visitor from another world, the world of childhood.
And that visitor's constantly trying to tell you how they grow. They are giving you the blueprints moment by moment. If you listen, if you
Yeah.
really learn to see, you can build a world that fits them rather than constantly trying to force them to fit into yours.
You become their ally instead of their biggest obstacle.
That's the goal.
This has been, I mean, honestly, a bit of a therapy session for me. I'm thinking back to so many interactions, even this morning, that I completely misread because I was wearing my adult glasses. I'm thinking of times I got angry at a failed experiment, or I impatiently rushed a sensitive period because we were late for school.
We all do it. Every single one of us. The cultural pressure in our society to produce results, to be efficient, to be on time, is enormous.
It's overwhelming.
The point of this deep dive isn't to make anyone feel guilty. Guilt is just another form of self-centeredness. It keeps the focus on you. Oh, I'm such a bad parent. No, stop that.
Yeah.
The point is to wake up.
To wake up, to snap out of the trance of efficiency that we all live in.
To realize that we have been, in many ways, spiritually blind to the true reality of the child. And now we have the tools to start seeing.
So let's summarize the fundamental shift we are asking our listeners to make today. It's a move from spiritual blindness to deep vision.
It is the move from focusing on the result, the wet floor, the loud noise, the messy room, to focusing on the process, the learning, the growth, the construction.
It's the move from being the judge who punishes.
To being the detective who understands.
And it is a move from the help that harms, that impatient rushing in, to the true service of observation.
Simply put, take off the glasses. Stop assuming that just because you bought the clothes, you know the human being wearing them. Respect the mystery of the child. They are not empty vessels waiting for us to fill them up.
Oh.
They are the builders. They are constructing a human being from scratch, using an ancient, innate blueprint. Our job is simply to be the best possible assistant on that construction site, to support their work, not to take it over.
I think that is a perfect place to land. But before we sign off, we always want to give our listeners a way to go deeper. We've really just scratched the surface of these powerful concepts. This is episode 16, but there is a whole library of wisdom behind this.
Absolutely. This is just one chapter of a massive, beautiful story. If you want to truly understand the secret world of childhood, you really need to go to the source.
We encourage you, if this resonated with you today, to visit Dar El Kalima Publishing House. You can find them online at darelkalima.com. They have the resources, the books, the materials that dig so much deeper into the science and the philosophy we just touched on today.
The purpose of their work is simple, but so powerful. Support the truth, build the human. The more you know, the better you can serve, and the better you can see.
And as we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talked almost entirely about children today, but ask yourself this. Where else in your life are you wearing adult glasses?
That is a fascinating question.
Where else are you judging the result and completely missing the process?
That could apply to so many areas.
In your marriage, with your employees, with your own parents, with yourself. Are you judging your own spilled water as a personal failure? Or are you seeing it as data from an ongoing experiment?
Yeah.
Maybe this deep vision isn't just for parents. Maybe it's for humans.
If we can learn to see the child deeply, with that level of respect and curiosity, perhaps we can learn to see everyone deeply. Perhaps we can even learn to see ourselves that way.
Thank you so much for listening to this deep dive. I'm your host.
And I'm your expert.
And this has been Building Humans. Remember our motto:
love for all and service to everyone.
We'll see you next time.